and welcome back to Have You Seen My Film, a Kinema podcast. I'm Christy Marchese, the founder and CEO of Kinema, and today we are talking with Isaac Zablocki. He is the co-founder and CEO of the ReelAbilities Film Festival. He's also the director of film programs at Marlene Mayerson JCC Manhattan. He previously worked at Miramax Films and studied film at Columbia University. And today we're focusing on accessibility. So we'll talk about the ReelAbilities Film Festival and how filmmakers and the industry can be more accessible overall and the benefits of doing so. So let's get into it. All right, we're back, and I am here with Isaac Zablocki, the co-founder of the ReelAbilities Film Festival. Hi, Isaac. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. I'll be at the ReelAbilities Film Festival, and what is it, April 23rd, 25th to 30th?
23rd to the 30th.
Okay, 23rd to 30th. I'm looking forward to going and chatting with everybody there. So for this conversation, I wanted to kind of pick your brain a bit on what accessibility means, especially for filmmakers and for our audience, which is a mix of filmmakers leading their own distribution and industry members. So let's start first with the ReelAbilities Film Festival. Like, what did you see missing in the industry that made you realize that this needed to exist? How'd you get it started?
So I think the strongest thing, the missing was people weren't showing these films. This is our 18th year of the festival. So we established kind of like 19 years ago. I was shocked to see how there was no real platform for these disability films, that so many of them were being made. And the truth is, and this is what I think really pushed it for me, was people were afraid of these films. They're afraid of the topic of disabilities for so many different reasons. Some of them from we don't know how, and others for different scares people. So that was really what got this going for me.
No, it makes sense. So I moved to New York in 2011, and I remember one of the apartments I lived in, across the street were loads of wheat pastings for ReelAbilities Film Festivals. So I remember, I was like, I know the festival's been around a while, but I wasn't sure how long. But whoever was doing your marketing back then, it was everywhere. I don't know if you remember if that was you leading that, but you guys did a great job.
That's amazing. We moved away from having those posters some years ago, but I keep seeing now posters and I'm like, oh, why aren't we doing more of that? We should go back to it maybe.
It was great. Whoever was doing it, they blanketed my street. And so it was great marketing. So what is accessibility? When I think a lot of times we hear accessibility in film, it's add some closed captioning or make sure the movie theaters are accessible. What does accessibility really mean in this context of the filmmaking and the industry?
So of course, we have to practice what we're preaching in many ways and have tried to be as accessible as possible from year one and have learned a lot and are always evolving. That's why we never say that we're fully accessible, because anyone who says they're fully accessible doesn't realize that accessibility is something that's changing every day. And ADA standard is just the beginning and just a recommendation as far as, it's a requirement, but for us is just like really the starting point. So for us, accessibility is really creating a space for absolutely everyone. We at one point made a decision very early on that we don't want anybody to have to ask for accessibility. It's all provided. And those were for the basics, obviously, wheelchair access, audio description, and captions. So in our first year, we did not have audio description for absolutely every film. We also probably didn't have a cell interpretation for absolutely every conversation. I think we had captions for everything. And that was something that early on we wanted to make sure, and came down to a fundraising effort of saying, we want to make sure that everything is as accessible as possible. We're going to not just make an audio description for the films that are relevant to the blind and vision loss community or by request, which was kind of what we did the first year. We're going to do it for everyone. And back then, by the way, we didn't even have enough audio describers working in the field in New York. We had to train audio describers who then actually supported us throughout the years and became active members of our team to make sure that accessibility is provided. We went to this concept of really universal design, that everybody who comes in is coming in the same way. The accessibility is there for everybody, not just for the specific community that's asking for it.
And real quick, is it physical accessibility, like mental accessibility? I guess are there sort of categories you look at as you kind of expand to make it universal?
We touch on disabilities of every kind and try to expand that. And people always ask me is this specific thing a disability? And whatever it is, my answer is yes, because we want to cast as wide of a net as possible and make sure that everyone can feel included, and whatever the disability might be, even if it's not something that's fully recognized by ADA, we'll take a bigger bite out of it all and say we're all about inclusion. So everyone is welcome. And this is where we went to a concept of individual design. How can we make this experience more accessible for you and have, the space and tools to be able to do that? And we have evolved over the years and have created some really exciting and new ways of experiencing accessibility. And at the same time, this is something that's crucial to us. We want to make sure that everyone is having a completely professional experience watching a movie, experiencing a panel. And we feel that some people say accessibility gets in the way. And there's definitely accessibility friction in some ways for some people, especially between different kinds of disability. But we try to provide an atmosphere that's both accessible and professional at the same time.
I think when I got my ticket or I was signing up for my pass, there was a question on there that asked like me specifically on an individual level, is there a disability I want to share or any accessibility needs? And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's smart. And then you're taking in that information and then you're seeing everyone that's coming. Is there anything that we might have missed in some capacity to incorporate?
Absolutely. Good. I'm glad it's there.
It was right there. It was really easy to sign up. But so for example, for the audio descriptions, you mentioned like adding that a bit later. If you don't mind, like how does that work? If you're doing a live screening in person, do you give people the option to wear headphones for an audio description, or is the audio description on top of the film? Okay. And then everyone's experienced the audio.
We show the movie with open captions. I mean, the captions are on the screen for everybody. I feel that kind of fits with some industry standards. It's offered in mainstream theaters at times. And of course, anybody who watches a foreign film will see captions on the screen. And this is something else that years ago we had to do, which was we wanted to make our captions look as much as possible like the cinematic experience of having a translation on the screen, and not necessarily like, those block letters. That's like something
right.
that I thought like, was more imposing on the experience. So we do that. Audio description, we have closed audio description. So we provide headsets for anybody who wants. We also actually now use a new system and have this available for all of our films, a system where you could listen to it with your own phone. There's a QR code, you download the app. And this is amazing technology. I get really excited about these things. I nerd out. Your phone listens to the audio on the screen and syncs up. It's hearing and knows which film you're watching. It syncs up and it gives you the audio description directly to your own headset, which is amazing. And this then service lives on with the film anywhere this film is watched. So as long as the device is able to hear the film, it can sync up the audio description, not just at the ReelAbilities screening, but when you're watching it at home.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really, really cool. So many of us watch with them on anyway, even if we don't have a registered hearing disability. Something's happened with streaming and sound where I keep captions on for everything I watch now. So when I see it at a movie theater, I actually get excited because that helps me absorb the movie better.
I love that too. And it's definitely something that happened, but it's one of those cases of where accessibility is actually adding to everyone's experience.
Let's lean into that a bit. So how does accessibility in general make the film better? I know we're talking mostly about the film festival, but if you want to pull from any experience from production to distribution, how does thinking about accessibility at every point in the filmmaking to distribution process make the film experience better?
First of all, let's talk about culture on a cultural level. Anyone that is thinking about accessibility is a kinder space to work. There's no question. I think that's number one for me for accessibility. And, you'd have to have the right attitude. You have to say, I want to help versus I don't want to help. And I'm not, and this is in my way. I feel that this is an important part of our culture, and set culture definitely has a lot of work to be done in terms of change to make sure that everyone can feel welcome on the set and in a safe environment. So that's a big part of it. Today there's a lot of talk about having accessibility coordinators on set. And it's sometimes done, there's a little bit of a culture there that I've heard that has been not always effective because they're looking out specifically for those with a disability, as opposed to looking out for everyone, even those who haven't disclosed their disability for whatever reason. It should be actually every set should have an environment that is trained for accessibility, whether it's physical accessibility, whether it's whatever accessibility aids might be needed, whether it's the right kind of breaks during a set are crucial and can often come with a lot of accessibility needs. But there's, of course, even things that relate to mental health in terms of creating an accessible environment where, I think the strongest thing is obviously we know that there have been experiences in Hollywood where people have felt very threatened on set and in unhealthy environments. I think this is all part of that bigger picture of creating that change. And it doesn't take away from the professional atmosphere.
Chloe Zhao has been getting a lot of, I guess, a very positive response as people hear about how she runs her sets, that like there isn't an overtime. You have like something like a 9-hour work day, but that's it. Like she's very conscious about everybody on the set. And it sounds similar to what you're saying, entering with a kindness mindset to take care of everybody around you. And also just putting some regulations in place that help take care of your team. In hearing this, I hear kind of like an intimacy coordinator having an accessibility coordinator. Often these come with price tags, and indie filmmakers, of course, are trying to manage a budget. What are some of the challenges, or what are some of the, what's the word I'm looking for, the friction points that you might hear from the filmmakers when they're like, I would love to do that, but it's too expensive, or I can't do that because I don't know how to do it? What are some of those challenges?
I'm going to answer the question, and I love saying this to the film industry. You have no excuse not to get creative. This is your job. There are so many ways to do things. Technology is extremely helpful. And yes, sometimes there's a price ticket. I mean, most Hollywood budgets have no excuse not to make it part of the environment. Sometimes it's about doing a training just before and setting that up. And that's all you need to get this going and to have the right kind of listen to this podcast. That will take you 10 steps forward, right? There's your plug.
Thanks, Isaac.
Accessibility is accessible. So yes, sometimes there is a price tag to it. Write it into your budget. That's important if this matters to you.
In many communities, we don't want to put the onus on those communities to solve the problems for us. But I could tell you, there's a filmmaker named May Thornton Mahra who has the film. She produced the film Being Michelle. She's been incredibly helpful to us. And I want to thank her here. And she knows this for her kindness in kind of helping point out things that could be more accessible on our site and helping as we work through it. And similar, I think, to sets or other businesses, we're like, okay, this is important. We need to put this into production. There may be time or resources or budget we need to allocate towards it, but we recognize that it's important and that we are limiting our audience if we don't have some of these measures in place. I'm wondering, can you talk a bit about the audience access? If we're limiting the accessibility on our sites or in our films or at our events, what are we losing? What are the audiences that we're missing out on?
I mean, first of all, right. The disability community is a huge community. And this is a community that, film is for everyone. So I'd like to think that this is a community that would enjoy film. It's really, this has been a challenge for ReelAbilities. So many members of the community have been burnt by the film industry that they don't feel safe coming to a theatrical experience, coming to a film festival, because they're not going to get the right kind of accessibility. They're not going to get the right kind of treatment. They're going to be told that things are fully accessible, as people like to claim. Mm-hmm. And then that's not their experience. And for us, of course, they hopefully will have that experience. It's not that we don't make mistakes and that sometimes technology fails, and there's definitely always places to learn. But we're trying to retrain the community and trying to bring out a community that's going to feel that they can come to theaters, and hopefully that will trickle down to mainstream theaters. The mainstream theaters need to get onto ReelAbilities standard and really raise the bar there in terms of their accessibility. I'm constantly, every time I go to a movie, I'm checking all forms of accessibility. And this goes for a lot of film festivals too. So often the volunteers or the workers are not trained correctly to provide the accessibility that actually is there. The accessibility is not tested and sometimes doesn't work. There's a lack of thought that goes into the process. Anything, I'll give you a random example. ReelAbilities, I think it took us till year 5 to realize that the soap in the women's bathroom was not accessible. It was too high for someone in a wheelchair. It's something as simple as that. And it's going through your space and understanding what the needs might be.
There used to be a really cool app like AXS. Do you remember? I think it was called AXS. There was a filmmaker that created it. And the idea was it was kind of creating a distributed network where anyone could use the app. You go into a restaurant or location and you can essentially report okay, were there stairs to go to the bathroom? How high were the handles? And kind of give somewhat of a crowdsourced grade on the accessibility. I'm not sure if it's actually still around, but what tools did you guys use?
Yeah. Jason De Silva is the filmmaker who started that app and is a good friend of ours. I hope it still exists. I know Google itself has also added in some accessibility elements too, and it's good for it to be mainstreamed as well. And we're constantly, you see it in when you buy a ticket, we are surveying our audience constantly. We are looking for, we have our checklist, but we go beyond that. We'll have relaxed screenings to add on to it. There was something I was going to mention before in terms of like the film industries adding on elements that I'm remembering now that there's ways to think differently. Here's an example. We were doing a screening with an organization called the Squeaky Wheel, who had done this comedy show that was broadcast in Canada, where amazing things can happen sometimes.
Love Canada.
Government budgets do amazing things sometimes. They handed us the screening files, and I said, "Where's the audio description?" And they said, "Oh no, it's baked in to the script." And think about it: writing a script that throws in elements that you don't need audio description, but actually tells you what's going on. It was easier in their format. They had a kind of like a newsy. They were doing like a spoof on the news kind of format. So it was easy for persons always like kind of describing things, but to work that into our dialogue, into our storytelling, can make it seamless. And there's a really creative way of creating accessibility in a way that serves everybody. Your script will be more digestible if you write in that format.
That's really cool. So, okay, think of like whether it's a checklist or new ideas. If you're a filmmaker, and let's focus maybe more on the independent filmmaker, someone who's going to take their film to the festival versus like a big studio project. What are like the 2 or 3 like non-negotiables? Like if you're going to make a movie, here are some things you have to like budget for closed captions or budget for audio descriptions. What are 2 or 3 non-negotiables?
I think those are the 2. Really, those are the 2 that are the most popular. I'll throw in a couple more non-negotiables since you mentioned those 2. Making sure that there's disability representation on your set, especially if you're making a movie about disability. That should be authentic. It should come from within. The community should be a part of it, not only just on screen, but off screen too. Also, making sure that people with disabilities are part of your process and are there throughout from beginning to end to make sure this community is invited to this film, especially if it's not about a disability.
Oh, that's interesting. Like just because do you think your film doesn't have anything to do with disabilities doesn't mean you should cut yourself off. And again, everyone should be doing their own research, but because people are listening, hopefully to try and understand what they can do better. Where can people go for this? Where can you go for a list of ways to make your website more accessible or ways to make your film more accessible?
ReelAbilities has a resources page, I've been told, on our website. So you can check it out there. There are other resources out there. Forward Docs is a great space with a lot of resources, and not just for documentaries, but in general. Respectability is no longer called that. It's disability. It belongs. Is their new name. And they I'm sure have many resources too. And these are kind of like some of the main players within the disability inclusion film world.
I can tell you closed captioning, we don't require it on the platform from our filmmakers. Our filmmakers maintain their rights. We don't make it an absolute requirement, but we strongly, strongly, strongly request it because we can tell you our audience members are upset if they don't have that option. And I think that we sometimes get pushback that it would be expensive or it would be cost prohibitive in order to add them. I think you're missing out on somebody. You could probably make up that cost for people who'd be willing to pay to see your film pretty quickly, and especially given all the tools out there that can help transcribe. So that's our plug for, we won't force you, but we would really appreciate it because your audiences would like it. You're missing out on audience by not having closed captioning.
But let me plug further. The main thing that's happening is that a lot of film festivals are saying, sure, you have to have captions submitted and audio description submitted, but then the conversations are not captioned. And
oh, right.
That is if you're having a film festival. So the person who has hearing loss or is deaf saw their film with closed captions, but then couldn't be a part of the conversation. That's for me, 50% of the experience at a film festival. So that's definitely something that needs to be considered. Captions just everywhere. And the beauty of it is that today it can be done on your phone. Sundance Film Festival this year for the first time had that available, and it was groundbreaking.
Yes, thanks to technology too. I went to 2 events for the Seed and Spark that had for filmmakers, and I saw the QR code that you could use to access the app, and it would transcribe everything that was happening on stage from the speakers. And so it would transcribe in real time the speakers, and it would be up on a screen for everyone to read. Very helpful for me because I miss things.
It's so funny. I'm neurodivergent, and that might be why I miss things sometimes too. And I'm always looking at the captions. But it's really it's helpful for everybody. Technology can do it really well now, and it can be in the palm of your hand as opposed to, yes, we have a screen out and offer the palm of your hand, so you could also have options. By the way, that's another huge part of accessibility: options. Having those options out there. ReelAbilities has a streaming site, for instance, that in it we added this one-of-a-kind accessibility element. It's called Snowflake, and it allows you to watch the film in ways that might be more comfortable for your viewing experience. Like, let's say you have a reaction to the color red. It takes out all of the color red. You like watching things animated. It turns it into pencil animation. You like watching things within a frame. It lets you do that. And the point is, this might not be right for everybody. Like, captions are right for a lot of people. This also gives you options for those who who are not part of a larger disability group that has managed to get that accessibility required. It allows people to get accessibility on the individual level.
That's amazing. What are you most excited about for this year's ReelAbilities Film Festival?
I mean, the movies are great, always. What has happened over the years, which is really exciting to me, and I'm excited to get back to it, it is a week of community engagement, which is amazing to see. And built over 18 years, this is a community that keeps growing. And to see the networking that goes on and the connections that are made there, I'm always excited to be in that atmosphere that, for 1 week a year, this magical world exists. I mean, we do screenings throughout the year, but it's really that intensity of the festival where you get to see this community getting together like nowhere else.
Oh, it's amazing. How do people find the website? How do we get tickets?
ReelAbilities.org/New York is the most direct way of getting to the New York Festival, which is running April 23rd to the 30th. The Industry Summit runs April 27th, 28th, in person and virtually. We offer a lot of our programs virtually, also because of accessibility. We learned during the pandemic, we were virtual for the first time. We were actually one of the first virtual festivals out there. Our tickets were on sale and we transitioned to virtual. And we got all these emails from people saying that we always wanted to go to your festival and it was never accessible to us because we can't leave our homes. And we realized, wait a minute, this is a whole new level of accessibility that we need to add on. So we've continued that. And it's not, some festivals do it because they sell a lot of tickets and make a lot of money. We do it for accessibility purposes and keep that available. So most of our films are available virtually as well. Throughout the week and beyond, we save them for that next following weekend that they continue to run. So people who are seeing things in person can also catch up on some films.
Oh, nice. You haven't said this explicitly, but I would have, if this is true, I would like to reiterate it. The ReelAbilities Film Festival is for everyone. So even if all the films may focus on storylines and by filmmakers with disabilities, it's my understanding that you don't have to have a disability to come to the ReelAbilities Film Festival or to come to the industry workshop day. Is that correct?
Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. It was designed this way. We were designed to actually be a festival that bridges gaps between the disability community and the non-disabled community. That's why we choose movies that are just great movies. And yes, they happen to have disability inclusion too. And luckily we have more than enough films that check all those boxes. They're written well, produced well, tell a great story that anyone can engage with. And they also happen to have all the disability requirements that we also look for.
Amazing. Great. Well, I'm excited to go and I'll see you there. And is there anything else you want to share that we didn't cover?
Just remind people of the website. We also have this streaming site that's available year round, so you can check those out. And we then travel to other cities across the U.S. and are constantly expanding.
Cool. Well, Isaac, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
And that's our episode. Thank you to our special guest, our producer and editor, Ron Pissarro, and you, the filmmakers, creators, marketers, and distributors that are dedicated to connecting audiences with great films.